This is an older story, but with a new twist. Let's look at the old story first. This is from September 2019. This is Khao English. This is a newspaper owned by the US-backed billionaire opposition leader Thanathorn and his family. The title is Future Forward Admits to Hiring a Lobbyist for Thanathorn's US visit. Now, this was Thanathorn traveling to the US in July 2019 before the Thai general elections. So instead of campaigning in Thailand for the election, he went to the US to lobby for support. He literally hired a US-based lobbyist to do this. And the name of the company was APCO Worldwide. Now, if you go to the United States Department of Justice official website, and you go to their Foreign Agents Registration Act disclosures, and you do a search for Thanathorn, there's a number of documents that pop up detailing this lobbying that he paid for. And this document we're all familiar with. This is the one where it admits that he's paying $10,000 a month from July to December 2019. And it also has his signature right down here. So it's signed and dated. This is beyond dispute. There's no way he can deny this. Another document that pops up is this one, and it's 53 pages long. And in it, it details what this lobbying company did for Thanathorn during his trip. So I found something there a little disturbing. First of all, he was meeting with people in the US Congress and the US State Department, but he was also meeting with many representatives from USAID. Now, USAID hands money out. Thanathorn and his family are billionaires. Why are they talking to USAID? Do they need US government money? Because that's all USAID does, is hand out money. And they usually do it to back opposition groups and to advance US foreign policy overseas. They also talk about all of the media meetings that this lobbying group arranged for Thanathorn, but the one that's most disturbing is down here. He met with Freedom House. Freedom House is a subsidiary of the National Endowment for Democracy. Freedom House exists solely to facilitate regime change. You don't go to Freedom House and ask them for help unless you're trying to overthrow the government in your country and get yourself into power and using US government help to do it. And Freedom House won't meet with you or help you unless they are sure that once you're in power, you are going to hand the country over to US corporate financier interests, the sort of people that actually sit on the board of directors of organizations like Freedom House and the National Endowment for Democracy. And let's take a look at some of those people. Here, right at the top of the list is Michael Chertoff. He has nothing to do with human rights, freedom, and democracy. He rose to prominence during the US war on terror. He was head of the US Department of Homeland Security, and then he founded the Chertoff Group after he left his post, and now he sells equipment and services to the department he used to head. So openly corrupt, and he's also a big proponent of US wars and regime change all around the globe. And here's a Huffington Post article detailing all of this. There's also people like Carol Adelman, and she's interesting. She is the wife of Kenneth Adelman, and if you go to older Board of Trustee lists, you'll actually see Kenneth Adelman was also a trustee. And it's interesting because Kenneth Adelman used to, at the very same time he was chairing the Freedom House, he was also lobbying for Thaksin Shinawatra, because at that time, Thaksin Shinawatra was the puppet regime of choice. They wanted him back into power, and they were lobbying to do it. And they were also supporting him through the NED and Freedom House. You're also going to see people like Diana Negroponte. She is the wife of John Negroponte, who is revealed as a serial war criminal. And this is by the UK media, The Independent. This isn't Russian or Chinese media. This is Western media pointing this out. His background, particularly his time in Honduras, where he was overseeing death squads. And he was also using Honduras as a springboard to destabilize and overthrow other governments in the region. So that's, again, these are the sort of people that are associated with Freedom House. That's who Thanathorn was going to talk to. And how do we know that Freedom House is actually involved in regime change other than the people chairing it all being proponents of regime change? This is the New York Times. 2011, U.S. groups helped nurture Arab uprising. And it says right here, a number of the groups and individuals directly involved in the revolts received training and financing from groups like Freedom House. And it admits that the NED and Freedom House get all of their money from the US government and mainly from the State Department. We go back to where Thanathorn is meeting with Freedom House in the US, and then he returns to Thailand. He loses the general election by over 2 million votes to Palang Pracharat, which now leads the coalition government here in Thailand. So then he went out into the streets after his party was dissolved for obvious corruption. And then he started leading these anti-government protests himself for a short time. And then he started hiding behind the protests, and people like Anand Nampa stepped in, and he was leading the protests. And here's the BBC writing an article about him being arrested for leading the protests. What they didn't tell you is that he works for Thai Lawyers for Human Rights, and that Thai Lawyers for Human Rights, since they were founded in 2014, have been funded by the National Endowment for Democracy. Here they are. And we remember what the 3 demands of the US-backed anti-government protesters were here in Thailand. One of their demands was a new constitution must be drafted. So here was iLaw launching a petition to do that. And iLaw on their own website admits that they are funded by the National Endowment for Democracy. I'm not going to accuse Thanathorn of anything. I think the evidence speaks for itself. This is who Thanathorn met with when he was in the US in 2019. I'm telling you what Freedom House actually is versus what he might try to claim it is. After he returned to Thailand and after he started leading anti-government protests, Freedom House and its parent organization, the National Endowment for Democracy, were funding all of the core organizations that were driving those protests. If you were doing that in the United States, you'd go to jail for many years for treason. I'm not familiar with the laws here in Thailand, and quite frankly, it's the business of Thai people and the Thai government to sort out. I'm just showing you the facts. If you thought this video was useful, please like and share it. Think about subscribing to my channel. It helps the channel grow and it's free to do. Check the video description for all of the references that I used for this video, as well as for ways you can help support my work. And as always, thank you for watching.